What's up, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of the Scouting Combine here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thank you guys for watching our NBA draft live stream last night. I know the network's going to have a follow-up. Brady and the gang will also have something, but today we're talking about a different draft here. All right, as you guys know, the Scouting Combine is a predominantly Miami Dolphins NFL draft show. So today we're going to be talking about the 2021 Miami Dolphins redraft today here with my good friend Trevor Sikkema from PFF NFL Stock Exchange. Trevor, how you doing today, bud?
Hussam, I'm doing great, man. It's great to be back on with you. This is a fun exercise, a fun little topic to do a little redraft. I know it's early, but yeah, I think you and I are going to have some fun with it. So I'm excited, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. And I know usually with the redrafts we do first round only. All right, that's the name of the game in the industry. But I haven't really seen anybody do team redrafts as of yet for 2021, and I think this may be the first that I may have potentially seen or done a redraft for the Miami Dolphins. Have you seen anything of that sort yet?
No, not for Miami, certainly, which was a fun exercise when you told me that we were going to do it specifically for Miami. I was like, oh, okay, this will be a little bit interesting. So they had a lot of splash players from the 2021 class. So it's kind of interesting. I'm very curious to see kind of what our discussions are going to be like with the players that we kept, the players that we changed, and all that stuff. So it's going to be this is a good draft to go back and do for Miami specifically.
And it is because the first top three players, I mean, they were very, very good. And then you look at the back end of the draft, you're like, well, the top three players were good. The back end, they didn't contribute as much. We're going to see what they look like in the future. But comparing our drafts when we talked before the show, you have solid contributors all across all picks. So let's go ahead and get started. Round one, pick 6. Trevor, you have a big one, and it's a big change too.
Yeah, so okay, obviously Jalen Waddle goes number 6 overall, and I'm changing this one, but I'm kind of changing it because I knew that you wouldn't. I knew that you were probably going to keep it the same, so I wanted to bring a little bit of different spice to it. I was one of those people who was saying I would pick Penei Sewell over Jamar Chase. Now,
I was the same. I was the same way.
So, like, the Bengals debates at number 5, I was like, okay, Bengals need an offensive lineman. You go pick him. You pick him over Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase obviously had an unbelievable season, kind of reminiscent of what he had with Burrow at LSU. But all that to say, my thought process, my draft process really was you draft Penei Sewell over the wide receiver. And Miami desperately needs offensive linemen, and they still do. So if I were redrafting, I'd probably be taking Penei Sewell, and that's no knock to Jalen Waddle at all. I mean, he was absolutely fantastic last year. I had him as my wide receiver 1 in that class. Respected his talent a ton. I think he's got a super bright future. I think that Miami is more than happy with the player that they selected there. But I'd just be going with a trench player because I know you can get off or you can get wide receivers a little bit easier than you can offensive linemen. I know some people would argue, hey, you can't get Jalen Waddle speed in a lot of places. And I would respect that. And I would respect that point there. I'd still be going with Sewell. I was tempted to say Justin Fields because I was very high on Fields going into that draft. I'm still really high on Justin Fields. I hate the fact that he's in Chicago because it feels like they're not really doing him justice. But I felt that even though I loved Fields and even though I'm not the biggest fan of Tua now, for me to say that they should have taken Fields last year, even with hindsight, like it feels kind of cheap. Like it just doesn't feel genuine. So I'm not doing the Justin Fields pick, but I would do a redraft and I would take Penei Sewell, who I thought played really, really well in his first season.
And look, it makes sense, and you bring up the discussion with number 5 to the Bengals. I mean, we all saw that meme somebody posted out on Twitter. You know, Joe Burrow throws a pass, but he can't give it to Jamar Chase because he gets sacked.
Right.
That was the case this season with Tua Tagovailoa and his offensive line. I mean, that meme was specifically made for the Cincinnati Bengals, but it turns out it was for the Miami Dolphins because Tua was the most pressured quarterback last year and got hurt by his own offensive lineman last year because they couldn't block and they couldn't keep up with the pressure. I kept Jalen Waddle. I mean, 17th ranked wide receiver per PFF 96.1 PFF grade on intermediate passes, which was top 5. And if you think about it, Tua didn't throw a lot of intermediate passes, but when he did, it was primarily to Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki. And he was basically the offense last year. Rookie reception records, 1K yards, and he gets paired up with Tyreek Hill now, which maximizes his efficiency. And if you're going in, if you were going into this draft with all the news that and the rumors that the Miami Dolphins had surrounding Brian Flores and Tua, you would inevitably think that it was going to come. So now you have Mike McDaniel, right? Offensive line, specialist, did really, really good with that outside zone scheme in San Francisco, brings that wide zone scheme to Miami to develop the offensive lineman that Miami has. So keep your wide receiver that you drafted, your best wide receiver that you drafted in your offense, and now you have Tyreek Hill, you have Cedric Wilson. He was also he was Tua's favorite receiver last year, and he already has that budding chemistry with Tua, and it paid off. It showed last season. So me personally, I would keep Jalen Waddle. So our first picks are completely different, and I like the fact how you backed up your argument with Penei Sewell. Now, question: do you think Sewell would have had the same type of season in Detroit? I'm sorry, would he have had the same season in Miami that he had in Detroit, or do you think it would have been different?
Well, I think it would have been different just because Miami's offensive line is without a doubt worse, right? I mean, like they don't have Decker, they don't have Ragnow, they don't have Jackson, right? Like they don't have that offensive line around Sewell to make the easy transition for him playing in his first season. Miami's offensive line just was not good enough. I mean, I like Robert Hunt. I think that Robert Hunt is a good offensive lineman, but I mean, outside of him, I feel like a lot of guys on that offensive line, outside of Teron Armstead now, of course, would have been replaceable. So I think that Penei Sewell just as a whole would not have fared as well individually because offensive line is a very cohesive unit kind of a thing, but he is still extremely talented. And as the Miami Dolphins would have built out their offensive line over the next 2 to 3 years, he would have been an incredible piece to have, right? Imagine them like even in the exact same situation. And I know that things might not have exactly played out this way, but you draft Penei Sewell, you get Tyreek Hill, you get Cedric Wilson, you get Teron Armstead. Now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, holy cow. And now we've got 2 fantastic offensive tackles. We still have that dynamic wide receiver weapon. We have Cedric Wilson as well that's in there. And then they have a handful of receivers down the depth chart as well to kind of like make it work. All of a sudden, like that offensive line looks completely different when you have Teron Armstead and Penei Sewell on it. So no, I don't think that he would have had the exact same type of year, but the talent's still the talent. And he was still one of the youngest prospects in that draft. So it's not like he was going anywhere. It's not like it was this big waste of time for him as an older prospect as if he would have been like 24, 25. He's very young. He was 20 years old on draft weekend. And so I still think that would have been the right pick.
Would have been the right pick, but ultimately they picked up Jalen Waddle. As we move over to the second pick of the first round, pick number 18. Trevor, who did you select?
Yeah, so
number 18.
I have this one's the same. I've got Jalen Phillips for this one. I had Jalen Phillips as my number 1 edge rusher in last year's class, and for them to get Jalen Phillips where they did later in the first round, I thought that was really, really impressive. I think he set the Dolphins rookie sack record, right, with 8.5. I believe he did that in his rookie season, or at least he was close to it.
He was close to it. I believe it might have been Jason Taylor with 9.5 or 10.
Was it? He was close. He was close. I remember he was close to it. Whatever it was. And I think that he's only scratching the surface. Like, I really do. I think that when I watch this guy at Miami, he has all the talent in the world. He moves at a very different level for a player of his size, player of his strength, to have that combination of speed as well was really encouraging. And so I wouldn't change this one. I think that it was an absolute steal getting him where they did in the draft. So I'm not changing this one. He was my top edge rusher last year.
Mine also stays the same. I keep Jalen Phillips. However, coming out pre-draft process, I had him ranked as my 4th. I had Rousseau as 1. I had Kwity Paye as 2. I had Patrick Jones from Pittsburgh as 3.
I like Patrick Jones. I didn't like him that much, but I did like him. I thought he was good, man.
I had Patrick Jones as number 3 and then Jalen as number 4. And the reason why I had him at number 4 was just because of those injury concerns. Now, he didn't have many of those injuries with the Hurricanes, but you could see like the snaps he played in Miami, they were still limited for fear of him getting injured. And I was thinking, if you're going to take him high, a high edge rusher, yeah, he's got the goodies, right? He's got the tool set, he's got the skill set, he's got that motor, but can he play? Will he be able to be on the field? Will he be effective? Now I get it. Rookie season, he might not play that much, but when he gets on the field, is the concern going to be that, hey, he might, twist his ankle? Maybe will he get another concussion? Didn't happen last year at all. Instead, here's what happened. 8.5 sacks in his rookie year. 89.6% pass rush productivity, which is kind of high for a rookie edge rusher playing less than 500 snaps along the defensive line. He was 4th out of rookies in a minimum of 100 snaps on that pass rush productivity, and he was primarily playing on the right side of the defensive line. And if you think about it, Trevor, and just watching his film, watching his games that he played, he was inches close to potentially having 12 sacks in his rookie year. That Carolina game was his best graded game, and it was his best game that he had. He had 3 sacks. In the beginning of the year, he could have had 2 more sacks if he was just 0.2, 0.3 seconds late. And I talked to his defensive line coach, Eddie McGilvra. All he had to say for Jalen for year number 2, just get faster, be more technical.
Right.
And if he does that, he could potentially, alongside Emmanuel Ogbah, who we know was, I believe, the 10th best edge rusher per PFF last year. You pair him up with a young defensive line group in Miami, he could potentially have double-digit sacks next year. And he learned how to play the run effectively as an outside linebacker. So I would 100% keep Jalen Phillips with pick number 18. Now, as we move on to round 2, pick 36, who do you choose, Trevor, as a general manager of the Miami Dolphins?
I mean, it has to stay Javon Holland, right? I mean, like this, you look at Jalen Phillips and you consider him a steal at the back end of the first round. You've got to think the same thing about Javon Holland. I mean, even if there are other good players that I had in this class, because where'd Holland go? He went 36. Guys that you have after, I mean, Christian Barmore, I think, has got good potential. I like Trayvon Merrick. If you think that Asante Samuel could play full-time as an outside corner,
I had Trayvon Merrick as my number 1 safety, and
I did too.
And you know what's crazy? I thought they would pick Moreg over Javon Holland because of the fact that Moreg is more efficient and his skill set is better suited towards the deep third and 3 deep coverage that Miami played in 2020. Obviously, they switched it up in 2021 because they realized Javon Holland was that good. He could play free safety, and I projected that Holland could play some free safety snaps, but would primarily line up as a slot corner based on his freshman tape at Oregon. That's all the knowledge I had, and then here he comes.
Yeah, and he was unreal, right? He was one of the highest graded rookies of any position at PFF. I mean, he had a fantastic rookie year, no doubt about it. He was very interesting. Like when I watched his tape, I feel like Oregon used him in a decent amount of ways, and he was very versatile. And I just thought he had really great awareness. Like he understood where to position himself, no matter what his role was, and that always translates, right? You want smart football players, especially on the back end, the guys who have to operate in a ton of space. Like, can you position yourself the right way to where you're baiting the quarterback or you're confusing the wide receiver or just anticipating routes that are in front of you or behind you? You've got to be smart. And Javon Holland was absolutely that. And he was about as good as you could possibly want as a rookie safety. So, like I said, even though there's a lot of really nice players who were picked after him who I go, ooh, like I'm kind of intrigued by this person. I like them pre-draft. I like their rookie season. Nobody's going to weigh up to what Javon Holland was able to do. So those 2 picks had to stay the same for him because they were such great steals for Miami.
Of course, and leading up to this pick, the Broncos traded up and sniped Miami to get
Javonte, right? Yeah.
They sniped Miami to get Javonte Williams. And here's a cool story which I learned after the draft. So apparently, running backs coach Eric Suddsville, who was also the running backs coach for Denver a couple years ago, and now he's in Miami. He informed one of the scouts that Miami really, really loved Javonte Williams, and Denver needed a running back to pair with Melvin Gordon. So Studesville does the trick for the defensive back coaches. He goes, "Yeah, man, we really love Javonte. I think we're gonna get him in potentially that second round. You know, they like him. They need a running back. I would love to have him as a running back." Denver trades up. Boom. Takes Javonte Williams, and Dolphins fans were furious. They're like, we need a running back. We need a running back. We could have gotten Javonte. We could have gotten Najee Harris. Like, come on, guys. Like, this is horrible. This is horrible. Next pick, Javon Holland. Like, safety, but we already have a safety. We have Eric Rowe. We have Brandon Jones. We have Eggs. You know, we have Byron. Secondary is already good. What are we going to do with another rookie safety?
Plays great. Plays great.
He plays great. They're like, oh.
Right. That's always how it goes. That's always how it goes for the draft.
And look, he was the best rookie safety in the NFL. And easily. You could argue he may become a top 5 safety in the NFL down the line. Now, last year he had the most quarterback hurries among safeties, second most in sacks, quarterback hits, and pressures among safeties. 87.4 defense grade, which was the 4th highest among all safeties. And I thought he would play slot corner in Miami, moving Nick Needham to free safety, where he also balled out. Now, if I look back, I'm like, bro, this guy's Jamal Adams with coverage skills at the end of the day.
He's good. He
hits hard, dude.
You mentioned like you mentioned him becoming a top safety one day. I mean, certainly, I don't want to crown him to that point yet. But I mean, I really hope that he continues to build off of his rookie season. I hope that it wasn't just a 1-year wonder thing, because his play was a lot of fun. It was impactful. It was versatile. It was everything for Miami. And again, I think that what you saw was he. You know, you talk about him hitting hard and him being able to play deep coverage. That comes with confidence, right? And you're only playing confident when you're confident in what you're seeing, which comes from awareness, it comes from preparation, it comes from you're not second guessing yourself. And for a rookie secondary player to be able to step into the NFL, acclimate to the speed very quickly, and have the kind of confidence that you said Jamal Adams, I almost said Jamal Adams, that Javon Holland had was really, really impressive. And I think that was his best trait. And I think, again, that's something that's completely translatable. That's something that I don't think is going to go away. So hopefully the best is yet to come for him even.
I hope so too. Now we're going over to Miami's 4th selection. And originally, Miami had number 50 overall, but they traded up to pick 42. And the Giants traded that second round selection to Miami. And Miami gave up 50th overall and 2022 third round selection. So, Trevor, I want to ask you this before you put your pick in.
Yeah.
Is your pick selection 42 or is it selection 50?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
No, it wouldn't matter. The player that I'm replacing him with was picked 63. So either one does not matter. I'm taking Creed Humphrey, the interior offensive lineman from Oklahoma. I think that I have to here. I actually liked Liam Eichenberg going into the draft. I understood that there were athletic limitations with him, but thought he was very battle tested, if you will. He was the kind of player who maybe he wasn't going to be able to play tackle in the NFL, but if you put him in at guard, he knows enough of the game to where I think that he could have held his own. Didn't go great his first season in Miami, but I still think that there's a chance that he could be a good offensive lineman in the NFL. He just feels like he's got that pedigree to him, that he understands offensive line play, and I think that he'll eventually kind of find a home somewhere, whether it's Miami or elsewhere. But Creed Humphrey, I mean, he was quietly the best rookie offensive lineman, maybe even the best center in the NFL last year, which is pretty crazy. But look, if you've been following Oklahoma's offensive lineman, that's not too big of a shock. I mean, I remember what draft was this? This had to have been 2019's draft when Oklahoma had like 3 or 4 draft eligible offensive linemen. Cody Ford, Drew Samia, was Ben Powers in that class. There were a bunch of offensive linemen from that class that we were evaluating. And everybody kept telling me, that the true freshman kid in the middle who's playing center is actually the best offensive lineman on the team. And I'm like, how do you know that already? Like, I'm talking about Cody Ford as like a potential first-round pick, and you're going to tell me that a freshman's the best offensive lineman on the team. Sure enough, it was Creed Humphrey, and he was the best offensive lineman on the team, no doubt about it. I mean, he's got the wrestling background to him. He's got unbelievable core strength. He's fast. His hands are like vice grips. I mean, like he's everything that he needs to be. And selfishly, when I'm thinking about my scenario, my redraft, if you keep Teron Armstead and you still have the draft that I had in 2021, the Dolphins' offensive line would be Teron Armstead, Penei Sewell, Creed Humphrey, Robert Hunt, and then whoever your best other offensive guard is.
It would have been Connor Williams from the Cowboys.
Pick anybody. I don't care. All of a sudden, the Dolphins become a potential top 10 offensive line in the NFL, which alleviates a lot of the stresses that you had before. Again, yes, you don't have Jalen Waddle, and that sucks because he's a great player. But if you had that offensive line, you have Tua right behind it. You got Tyreek Hill, you got Cedric Wilson, you got Preston Williams. You have the rest of those guys still there. Look, I'm going to sign up for that all day long. So I'm going to go with Creed Humphrey in the redraft. I think this is a little bit cheating because he's so good and he went so late in this draft. But you got to go with Creed here with this pick.
So I do go with Creed Humphrey as well, but I pick him at number 50 because Miami gets that third rounder back. And this is no disrespect to Liam Eichenberg, and I do think that the Dolphins' offensive line coaches trusted him to play multiple positions along the offensive line. He played left tackle, he played right tackle, he played left guard, he played right guard. He played 4 positions except for center all of last year. Now, I don't know what rookie offensive lineman does that in like 14 games, but he struggled with no consistency. This is no disrespect to him. And look, Miami has needed a center since 2016. They have not had a stable center since Mike Pouncey, who is a former Florida Gator. Creed Humphrey is smart. He played man. He plays zone. Fantastic IQ. And in this scheme, in this wide zone scheme, you need a cerebral center. And Creed Humphrey is just that. His rookie season, he had a 91.8 PFF grade, which was the highest graded season by a rookie offensive lineman in the PFF era. Overall, a 90.4 offensive grade, which was first for all centers. 1,750 pass blocking snaps, 1 sack allowed till December 1st. He only had allowed 2 sacks last year. 0 pressures on blitzes and 2 holding penalties. That's it. Meanwhile, Liam Eichenberg all along the offensive line, 70-plus pressures last year, playing alongside Austin Jackson, Robert Hunt, and whatever other offensive lineman the Miami Dolphins had. Now, look, I get that the Dolphins like Liam Eichenberg. They liked his versatility, trusted him to play along basically every position but center along the offensive line. But he had his physical limitations. As you said, he doesn't have the length to play tackle. He protected Tua's blind side decently, but it still wasn't enough. And Creed Humphrey, as your center, you have Teron Armstead, and this is kind of rumored here, Trevor, but apparently Robert Hunt might play right tackle for the Dolphins this year. And under Billy Napier at Louisiana, he played right tackle, and it was an outside zone system as well. So you have Teron Armstead, Connor Williams, Creed Humphrey, Robert Hunt.
Not bad. Not bad. Not as good as mine, but not bad.
Not as good as yours, but not bad.
Your wide receiver group is better than mine. But my next pick, I'm actually going to improve with the wide receiver group. If you want me to move on to that one,
yeah.
All right.
Round 3, pick 81.
Right. So which one? This pick was who was this pick?
Hunter Long.
Okay, so this is Hunter Long. So if you remember at the top of my draft, I went Penei Sewell, and then I went Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland. Those didn't change. I go Creed Humphrey. So I don't have a wide receiver addition at this point. At 81, the Miami Dolphins would have had a chance to take Amon-Ra St. Brown, the wide receiver from
the
Detroit Lions. Man,
I loved Amon-Ra.
He is, look, if you look at the last 6 games, he had more than 10 targets in the last 6 games of the season. Okay. His yards in those last 6 games, 86, 73, 90, 91, 111, 109. Okay. He had touchdowns in 5 of his last 6 games. He ended the season on a hot streak, man. You put him in the slot. You put Cedric Wilson on the outside, you put Tyreek Hill on the outside, and you can actually get creative with all 3 of those guys playing him in a variety of different situations. That becomes now a really nice, I think, wide receiver core to go along with the really good improved offensive line that we have there for Tua to be able to make the most of his chances. So I'm going to go Amon-Ra St. Brown here for the little redraft because I didn't have a wide receiver yet.
I loved Amon-Ra St. Brown coming out of USC, just not only because of his name, but, dude, his blocking ability is magnificent. Miami was missing blockers in that wide receiver group, and in this new scheme, they asked wide receivers to block a lot. Fantastic in the slot. He has sweet feet. He has strong hands, can play over the top, and takes those big hits on those intermediate passes as well. Sees coverage very, very well. And he's very versatile as well. He can play in this line, and he can also line up outside as well. I do think he's better, much better against zone coverage than man coverage, which is what a lot of the teams in the AFC East play now with Robert Saleh and his Jets. Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier, they play like 60% man, 40% zone, and then Bill Belichick as well. He plays cover 1 a lot. So I do think Amon-Ra in Miami is certainly interesting. Like, that would have been fun to see last year with your draft. Before we get onto my selection real quick, just want to shout out our sponsor, Prize Picks. Make sure you guys register on Prize Picks if you guys have not already, and use the promo code 5 to get a matching 100% match on your deposit. Again, the code is 5. So I go offensive line here again, and he was actually on the show last year. Big old Quinn Miners, right? He was the second highest rated rookie drafted in the 3rd round of the 2021 NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
He plays center, but projected as a guard and played guard in Denver. Plays that man and zone scheme as well. And the Broncos actually improved on their zone blocking schemes once Miners was inserted into the lineup after week 10. He had an average grade of 69, and that zone blocking scheme went from a 64 to a 69 after Miners was inserted. And if you remember watching that Broncos team, they were much, much better running the ball. So now you look at this Miami Dolphins offensive line. You have Teron Armstead. You have Connor Williams. You have Creed Humphrey. You have Quinn Miners.
There you go.
And you have Robert Hunt.
That's good. Yeah. That's really good. That's good. You did good there. You did good.
I did good on my listen. I may not be.
I like Miners. I like Miners. He's really.
I may not
really nice.
be the best scout for offensive line, but I know dogs. I know he's got that dog in him. Let me tell you.
He does.
And he was the number 1 rated rookie guard per PFF with minimum 100 snaps. And I 100% think he would fit this offensive line group and help to protect Tua Tagovailoa and increase, basically create holes for these running backs to run it. Now, if you think about it, you have Raheem Mostert, you have Chase Edmonds, maybe Myles Gaskin makes this roster. Now, all of a sudden, you have a talented offense around Tua Tagovailoa. You eliminate all those concerns, and you just let Tua be him. Now, what do you think? Let's say instead of having Amon-Ra, you had Miners in there, but you still have Cedric Wilson and Tyreek Hill, along with Mike Gesicki as your primary pass catchers.
So that would make my redraft offensive line: Teron Armstead, Quinn Miners, Creed Humphrey, Robert Hunt, Penei Sewell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works for me.
So look, the offensive line is fixed, right?
Yeah,
the offensive line is fixed.
We did it. We fixed it.
We did it. Chris Greer, are you watching, man? Come on. All right. As we move on to the first selection of the 7th round, pick 231. What does Trevor Sikkema pick?
I'm gonna go Kylan Hill, the running back from Mississippi State. He was a late 7th round draft pick, only played 3 games in his final season, but the year before that, I believe he rushed for about 1,300 yards. And so he was a player who they leaned on him a lot at Mississippi State before the offense got turned over to Mike Leach's offense. And so, no, I think that he had a ton of production. He was really an all-around athlete kind of a guy. He ends up going to the Packers, doesn't really play at all because the Packers already have A.J. Dillon. They have Aaron Jones. And so there was never really going to be any carries there. But I think that in Miami, Kylan Hill would have had every opportunity to potentially even be the starting running back there for them. And when he was a bell cow at Mississippi State, they really reaped the rewards of his talents there. So I think that he'd have a much better shot down in Miami. So I would go Kylan Hill here. I'd take a chance on him for the running back room.
And we had the similar thought process too, because I also picked up Kylan Hill in this draft. Look, Miami needed a running back, right? They drafted Jared Dokes, didn't really play much. Doesn't necessarily fit this scheme either, as he's more of a power back. Kylan Hill is also a power back, but he has excellent contact balance and his ability to create yards after contact. And if you watched him at Mississippi State, he looked a little bit like a pinball for me. He was going off of defenders' shoulders, their bodies, their legs, just steaming forward and running straight into the ground to get more yards outside the hashes as well. And he excels in short yardage situations as well. Not only that, he was one of the running backs. If I remember correctly, he had a better pass. He was one of my top 5 running backs who was better at pass blocking. And if you're already coming out of college and you can pass block, you better believe I'm gonna be ranking you high, because the NFL needs that, and not a lot of college kids can pass block well. Now, like, he's a grinder. He can fend off outstretched defenders, and he's 5'11", right? He's 5'11". He's not the biggest back, but he's tough.
No, I think that was a good pick.
He's tough. His decision making is good when going up the hills, but he doesn't necessarily have the patience as a runner. And if you think about it, in this scheme, you're going to have 1 to 2 holes open, and you can decide whichever one you want to take. And then as you progress, as you learn the system, as you go on through the weeks in the NFL, your decision making gets better, especially if he was playing his second season in Miami. So I think Kylan Hill would do some damage if he was playing the season in Miami.
Agreed.
Last pick, round 7, pick 244.
Yeah, I just went another wide receiver. I went with Dax Milne, who is wide receiver from BYU. Got drafted by Washington. Didn't have a lot of production for Washington this past year, kind of buried on the depth chart, but just kind of a reliable wide receiver. I think he had over 1,200 yards with Zach Wilson in that crazy season for BYU. So he was one of the main receivers there. Just a trustworthy wide receiver. I think he's somebody who I think primarily plays from the slot, not the biggest wide receiver, not the fastest wide receiver. So he operates a lot more on that Hunter Renfrow kind of a role, where he just understands how to create that separation, how to manipulate defenders and their leverage, how to find soft spots in the zone. And so he just a smart wide receiver. I think just a smart wide receiver that could also play special teams for you. So I went with him as the final pick here in this redraft. But anytime it's a pick this late, it's kind of just a dart throw, if you will.
It's kind of a dart throw, and I actually picked Ben Skoranek here.
Another wide receiver. There we go.
So yeah, he went to the Los Angeles Rams, and he's a Super Bowl champion now. Okay, highly competitive pass catcher, good size, good route running technique, but he misses that long speed and suddenness out a big body outside target. Now he has that matchup potential, a mismatch on the outside, and he's really good at blocking, right? Really, really good at blocking. And as somebody picking late in this draft, you can say, okay, he may become a core special teams guy, and you want that value in that 7th round, especially if you're paying a guy like that. He's a quick opener to eat up those throws underneath. He has the speed and athleticism to work that second level, that intermediate level, and occasionally get deep if defensive backs are not careful on how they match up with them. I do think he may need a little bit more weight when he was coming out of the draft, but he already did it, and he was a plus run blocker for the Rams. Gets high, excellent body extension, and finish runs after catch like a tight end. He goes through defenders really, really well, and special teams, he can block dudes with ease. So, I mean, hey, maybe if you put him as an inline tight end, he can pancake an edge rusher. So that would have been fun to see. And obviously, he would be Mac Hollins' replacement, as Mac Hollins did leave in free agency as that core special teams guy. So, Trevor, I want to thank you for
back-to-back wide receivers at the end of the
back-to-back wide receivers, man.
Nice.
I think
nice. We were pretty close. We like in kind of our wavelength in our thinking of how they should have gone about this. This is fun though. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, it was like a mental thing for me. I'm like, okay, I know we need offensive linemen, but there are these quality offensive linemen in the middle of the draft. And I was thinking, maybe instead of getting a guy like Creed Humphrey and I could wait for him just a little bit, trade up to get him, I could potentially take a guy like Tevin Jenkins, who would be a mainstay on the right side of the ball. But as we know, Tevin Jenkins, he had that injury. He was sidelined.
Right.
In theory, it would have been fine. Now, when I look at this back end, I'm like, Hunter Long. Maybe Miami has something in the plans for him, but didn't really show much. But when you're talking about a redraft, you want somebody that can start for you, be productive that first year. And I feel like the entire redraft that you and I did, solid contributors may have given Miami an extra win or two.
Yep. No, I agree. And a better future. So I think we did good.
I think Dolphins fans would be proud, but I don't know. I think some fans might be a little bit sour with your first pick of.
That's fine. I laid out how incredible I made the offensive line. So if you don't like that, that is your decision, and I'm okay with it.
But Jalen
Waddle's awesome.
If you don't like Trevor's draft, you have to at least like my draft. We still have a pretty good offensive line.
Right.
May not be top 5.
We can't go 0 for 2 here.
Yeah. May not be top 5. Maybe inching towards top 10, but maybe 12, 13, 14, middle of the pack. And I think that's what Tua and the offense would need to succeed. So, Trevor, what's in store for you, man?
Oh, man. Busy summer. Got a lot of scouting going on with Connor Rogers over in the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. We're having a lot of fun doing that 2 days a week, both wherever you listen to podcasts and then YouTube as well. And then just really getting ready for everything with this upcoming season, whether it's fantasy football, betting, just team previews, everything over at pff.com, man. It's exciting times.
It's exciting. Yeah, 100% exciting times over at PFF and especially here for summer scouting. Guys, I have back-to-back podcasts today and tomorrow. We already got Trevor Sikkema on today. Tomorrow, we have Emery Hunt, and we're going to be talking about the 2020 and 2021.
Emery's the man. Emery is the man. So everybody better listen to that podcast. He is awesome.
Yeah. Y'all better tune in when Emery speaks. We will be live at 2 p.m. tomorrow. And guys, I know Trevor is a favorite here. We hope to have Trevor back on pretty soon, maybe during the season, after the season. We'll see what happens. But thank you guys for watching. And as always, fins up, everybody.